All right, Business Math Worksheet Day 30. Under the Personal Finance section, still working with stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, says Patricia Washington owns 283 shares of Overload Spring Company's common stock. If the corporation pays a quarterly dividend of 47 cents per share, what is the total dividend that Patricia will receive for the quarter? So she's basically just getting 47 cents times every share she has, 47 cents per share. So she has 283 shares. If I multiply that by the 47 cents, 283 times 0.47 gives me $133.01 that she would receive for this quarter. The second one there says Kim Stewart owns 233 shares of Thompson & Thompson Builders common stock. If the corporation pays a quarterly dividend of 56 cents per share, what is the total dividend that Kim will receive for this quarter? So again, we're just taking the 56 cents per share times the number of shares. She has 233 shares at 56 cents per share. So 233 times 0.56 gives me $130.48. And the third one's basically going to be the same thing, nothing too terribly bad. John Edwards owns 311 shares of New Hope Utilities Incorporated common stock. If the corporation pays a quarterly dividend of 37 cents per share, what is the total dividend that John will receive for this quarter? So he has 311 shares. He's going to get 37 cents per share that he owns. So if we take 311 times 0.37, he's going to get $115.07. Number 4, 5, and 6, we're going to be dealing with some things with corporate bonds. You may want to print out and explain just because all of these things have different meanings and you may or may not know what they are. We have the interest rate of 6%, the maturity date, that's when you get the full value, 2010, the current yield, 6.25%, the volume, which is your number of shares, 97, the close, that's the closing price, and then the net change, which is the percent of change that you had between the previous day. So it says, using the bond information above, determine the following, round all answers to hundredths. The annual interest income. So my bond is worth $1,000. My interest rate is 6%, 0.06, and I'm doing it annually, so I'm doing 1 year at a time. So I'm going to take my $1,000 times my 0.06 times the 1 year, and so my annual interest income, $60 per year. The second part of that wants to know the year the bondholder will be repaid the face value of the bond. That is the maturity date. So my maturity date, 2010. The year the bondholder will be repaid, the maturity date. The third part of that, the percentage of the face value paid to the bondholder each year. So the percentage of the face value, which is what we did up here on the first question, is just our interest rate. 6% is what we made each year. Percentage of the face value, 6% of $1,000 that we got each year. So making sure you understand what those things up in the table are. And when you do and explain, it'll go through all of those in a lot more detail. Number 5, if I can get the board to move. Kim Cooper owns a $1,000 corporate bond issued by Good Financial Company. Again, we've got the interest rate, the maturity date, current yield, volume, close, and net change. It says, using the bond information above, determine the following, round all answers to hundredths. So again, we want to do the annual interest income. We had $1,000 face value. we have an interest rate of 8.75. So 0.0875 as a decimal. It's going to be in there for 1 year since we're doing the annual interest. So 1,000 times 0.0875 times our 1 year means we would get $87.50 a year. Number 2 says the difference between the closing price today and the closing price on the previous day. That's going to be your net change, but you have to know that the net change is a percentage of the face value. So this is really negative 1.67%, and so it decreased. My value was $1,000, and so I'm going to take the $1,000 times 0.0167, and so if I take 1,000 times 0.0167, I have 1670, and so the decrease in my stock would be $16.70 from the previous day. So there on the net change, that negative just indicates that it decreased. We really don't have to do that, use it when we do the problem, because it just wants to know what was the change, the increase or the decrease, $16.70. And then the number of bonds bought and sold on this day. The number of bonds would be talking about the volume, and so we have 75 for our volume, looking there at the table. And number 6, I can get this to move again. Number 6, Frank Walker owns $1,000 corporate bonds issued by JetSmart Aviation. Using the bond information above, determine the following. Round all answers to the nearest hundredth. So annual interest income, again, it's $1,000 face value, 7% is our interest rate, and we're going to do it for 1 year since we're doing the annual interest. So if I take 1,000 times 7% times 1 year, $70 a year is going to be my annual interest that I get paid. And then it says, what is the last price paid for a bond on this trading day? Again, this is a percentage. My closing price was 76% of the value, the face value of the bond. And so I'm going to take 0.76 times the $1,000 face value. So 0.76 times 1,000, I get $760. And so I would have paid $760 for my $1,000 bond. So that's the closing price that they would have paid for the $1,000 bond that they have. And then it says the percentage of interest income when compared to the bond's closing price. The percentage of interest income compared to the bond's closing price is the current yield. That's what current yield is. And so your current yield there is just 9.21%. And so we're just reading that one off the table. Number 7, last year Kevin Wood purchased a $1,000 Campbell Manufacturing corporate bond with an annual interest rate of 6%. The bond's current market price is $820. So you'd pay $820 to purchase your $1,000 bond. Calculate the following and round your answers to 2 decimal places if necessary. So again, it's looking for the annual interest just like on the previous ones. The bond is worth $1,000. We have a 6% interest rate and we're doing annual interest, so we're just doing 1 year at a time. So if we take 1,000 times 6%, we get $60 a year. So my annual interest, $60. And then they want to calculate the current yield. In the table before, they had the current yield, but when you calculate the current yield, you're taking your annual interest divided by the current market price. So to calculate the current yield, we're going to take the 60 and we're going to divide it by the 820. Now this is going to be a percentage, so expect to get a decimal and then have to change it to a percent. 60 divided by 820, which was my current market price, gives me 0.7 or 0.07. I'm going to get my other zero in there. 0.07317, so forth and so on. I have to change that to a percent, so I'm going to multiply it by 100, which moves my decimal 2 places, and then I'm rounding to the nearest, or to 2 decimal places, so I'm going to say 7 point, and I have 317, so I've got to round that up to 2. 7.32% would then be my current yield. Last year, Susan Lopez purchased a $1,000 Dynamic Electronics corporate bond with an annual interest rate of 8.5%. The bond's current market price is $920. Calculate the following, and so the annual interest again. So my annual interest, my face value of $1,000 times my interest rate, so 0.085 for 8.5, and then we're doing annually, so 1 year at a time. So if we take our 1,000 times 0.085, we get $85. $85. I'll get it right yet. $85. There we go. Then they want us to calculate the current yield. So the current yield is your annual interest, which is at $85, divided by the current market price, which is $920. So 85 divided by 920 gives me 0.09239. Again, I want to change it to a percent, so I've got to move my decimal 2 places. 9.2, and it's 39, so since there's a 9 behind there, I've got to round it up to 4. So 9.24% would be my answer to 2 decimal places. And number 9 says, last year Eric Lee purchased a $1,000 All-Star Development corporate bond with an annual interest rate of 7.75%. The bond's current market price is $800. Calculate the following, and then round your answers to 2 decimal places if necessary. So my annual interest, I'm going to take my $1,000 face value times 0 or 0.0775, 7.75%. Times again just 1 year at a time, and so when I take 1,000 times 0.0775, I get $77.50. Then I want to calculate the current yield, so I'm going to take my annual interest, $77.50, and divide it by my current market price of $800. And I get 0.09685. I'm going to multiply it by 100 so I can change it to a percent, which just moves my decimal 2 places. So 9.6. I have an 8, but it's followed by a 7, so I've got to round my 8 up to a 9. So 9.69% would be my answer. And that is the end of worksheet day 30. So again, if I can get this to slide, it doesn't want to do that ever. It's under the personal finance slice of your pie chart, under the stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. So you'll want to look see if you have either of those, any of those 3 types of questions, and do those on your pie.